Are you ready for another Goodfellas video where we talk about the top tight end versus defense matchups for week 7? Are you ready?
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom.
Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, before we get started, let me explain what we're doing. In this video, we're looking at the tight ends versus the defense matchups for week 7, and maybe you can get some knowledge and see what's going on, but this is all about averages. Number 1, Sam LaPorta, 19.06. So if you look at Sam LaPorta's last 2-game average, it's 18.35. We take 60% of the last 2 games of the player versus 40% of the defense matchups for the last 3 games, if there is 3 games, if not 2. And that gives you a 19.06 rating, pretty balanced here. So I expect him to do well. Number 2, Dallas Goedert, 18.63. I believe he's been getting into the end zone. So if we look at this and say, okay, where that's his receiving yards, we take the last 2 games here, week 5, week 6, take the TDs. He's been getting into the TDs. And then there's his fantasy points. You take those averages, and then the defense he's going against Minnesota is pretty tight when it comes to tight end matchups. They're taking the last 2 games and gives you 18.9, so it's pretty flat. At number 3, Trey McBride, 16.75. He's going against Green Bay, who's given up 19.5, so it slightly increases and inflates his potential. At number 4, Travis Kelce, 15.63. But who's he going against? He's going against Las Vegas, who's actually played well against the tight end, so it drops him a tad. Now, in these videos, I can seem like I'm smart. I could just hide these stats and put the players' names in there, then talk about all these stats like I'm some genius. But I like to look at these ratings and show you these ratings. Number 5, Darren Waller. If we're looking at Darren Waller, you'll see that the last 2 games he's averaging 14 points, but he's going against Cleveland, who's given up a slightly more than that, so it inflates his potential slightly. Number 6, Jake Ferguson. Number 7, Chig Okonkwo. I'm going to have to learn his name. Sorry, my apologies. Number 8, Tyler Warren, 14.08. Number 9, Harold Fannin Jr., 13.3. And number 10, David Njoku. You'll see that matchup is based upon Miami giving up 14.53, which is pretty good for a defense, but you'll see that they've both done fairly decent the last couple games. At number 11, AJ Barner, 12.98. His name comes up a lot all over the place. His last 2 games is 17.2, but he's been going against Houston, who's only given up 16.65 the last 2 games. That's incredible. So that might be a tough matchup. At number 12, Mason Taylor, 12.96. At number 13, Mitchell Evans, 11.95. At number 14, Zach Ertz got into the end zone last week. Who's he going against? He's going against Dallas, their defense is not looking good. Dallas's defense has given up a lot of points to tight ends, running backs, and wide receivers. So that inflates his potential. At number 15, you got Tommy Trumbull, 11.68. At number 16, Evan Ingram, 11.56. I don't know anything. It's an old image. I don't know anything about him, so let's look. His last 2-game average is 11.6. He's going against New York Giants. He's only given up 11.5, so it's pretty flat. And that was that. This is why I use these stats, so I can learn. And this is part of my research, is using this stat machine. At number 17, Gunnar Helm, 11.54. At number 18, Jake Tonges. At number 19, Tucker Kraft, 11.12. At number 20, Aronde Gatson. He's appeared on some lists of late. At number 21, Julian Hill, 10.82. Now this is surprising. So I want to see what he's done, because if you look, Darren Waller has gotten all the stats, but he's going against Cleveland, who's given up a whopping 17.83, totally pushing that stat extremely high. So remember, these are all stats. This doesn't take into account how that offense is going to manage their players. It doesn't take account injuries, nothing. So if we look here, we're going to go at 22, Tyler Higbee, 10.81. So I want to see, is this a defensive push? And this is a defensive push because he's going against Jacksonville, who's given up 16.53, whereas he's only produced 17. So let's take a look at his production. It should be taking the last 2 games that he's actually played, and then average that, and then that should give him an average so remember, it's only the games played, so keep that in mind. At 23, Brock Wright, 10.72. That's with Sam LaPorta already on that list. At 24, Cade Otton, 10.7. At number 25, Andrew Beck. Remember, we got Mason Taylor on this list. Now you got Andrew Beck. Number 26, Darnell Washington, 10.45. Let's take a look at him. What has he done? He's done a miserable 4.6. The last 2 game average. Well, he's going against Cincinnati. He's given up, on average, 19.2 to the tight ends. At 27, you have Theo Johnson. He's been on some lists of late. What has he done? The last 2 weeks, he's given up 13. He's accumulated 13 points, but he's going against Denver. He's given up a staggering 6.43. So that actually deflates his stats and potential. At number 28, Elijah Higgins, 10.18. At number 29, Connor Hayward. Let's see, is anybody on that list here? Nope. So that is, and rounding out this list is Tanner Hudson, 9.26. And why is that? Because he's going against Pittsburgh, who's given up 14.9 to tight ends, but he's then averaging 5.5, which pushes his stats up slightly. And that is the top tight end versus defensive matchups for Week 7. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good luck in Week 7.